Fish Stripes Unfiltered, episode 19. As always, joined by my co-host Isaac Azoot. Isaac, episode 19. What's up, man?
Chilling like a villain, man. We're recording this on May 19th, an off day. Marlins just finished up their series with the Washington Nationals, and we will soon be facing the Atlanta Braves. So very excited for this interview as well.
Yeah, so we aren't going to recap the National Series. You guys, that'll be done tomorrow on tomorrow for us on Fish Stripes Live. You would have listened to that by now, so make sure to check that out if you haven't so done. But I want to talk about, I guess, the breaking news that happened, or technically breaking news, the Max Meyer news that he went on the minor league IL. Your thoughts on that? I mean, he had some really bad starts. The last two starts, I think he gave up 8 earned runs in one, and then 4 in the other one. I think this was broken by Jordan McPherson. There it is. Yep. He will be re-evaluated. Organization does not believe it has to be serious. So I guess that's a little bit of an explanation to his bad 2 starts.
Yeah, exactly. It is an ulnar nerve irritation, or like you said, organization doesn't believe it to be a serious injury. But yeah, people were concerned with the lack of effectiveness he's had in his last 2 starts. He faced the Brewers minor league affiliate his first bad start, which was, I guess, 10 days ago. And I think it was 2 nights ago where he just got lit up for, I think it was 8 earned runs. His ERA jumped from the mid ones all the way into the 4s. So this, hopefully explains his lack of performance, and hopefully he'll be back, he won't miss too many starts, maybe 2 to 3 starts at most.
Yeah, so any plans of him being a Marlin, an official Marlin on the Major League roster this weekend in Atlanta is completely off the books. So we'll be getting some more Eliezer Hernandez action in the next couple of weeks. So the next thing I wanted to get to, the pitching rotation itself. They're getting it back together. Sandy had one of his best starts of the season against Washington. Pablo did have a rough start, but Trevor against the Brewers had an incredible start that I think got just derailed completely by that 1-run loss. I think it was another 1-run loss for Trevor. So your thoughts on this pitching rotation as a whole so far, now that they're getting it back together?
Yeah, man. Sandy, he was just slightly off to begin the season, but now you've seen him go back to his brilliant self. That was vintage Sandy in what we saw against Washington, retiring 20 straight batters. Just phenomenal performance by Sandy. And he was at, I think, 100 pitches flat after 8. So he could have gone out and completed the game, but it was an 8-1 ball game at that point. No reason to. Pablo, Cy Young Award favorite as of right now. Him and Corbin Burns, 1 and 2. I know he had a bit of a rough outing his last start, but, those will happen. And Trevor Rogers looks to be getting back out there. I was speaking with Wells Stoudemire Jr. on Tuesday. He had something good to say about each and every single one of those guys. And he told me that he'd be lying if he said that all 5 of those guys came out of spring training locked in. It was a shortened spring. They didn't get as much time as they usually get. So all 5 of them were exactly on their, best shit, as he would say. So it's good to see them finally, getting back to their normal form. Eliezer, Mel did mention him that he's got a lot of stuff to work on still. It's working on the 2-seamer rather than just a flat 4-seam fastball. The slider is always going to be there, so he's trying to work on that. And he was talking about Luzardo as well, just saying it's a shame that that little forearm injury. Luckily, it's not too serious. But once he's ready with the fastball a little bit more, he was telling me that he's got something else worked out for him for Luzardo to work on. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, funny enough, you mentioned Mel. When Trevor got that start against, I forgot the player. It was Trevor. So I don't know against which team, but actually it was that Milwaukee game, the Trevor game. I was there. He mentioned it was the 8 strikeout game. He mentioned Mel, like a father figure to him, someone who he talks to a lot and relies on him big time. So, that's how high a guy like Trevor himself thinks about Mel. And I wanted to go to Sandy's splits here quickly on April and May. He had a really good April when you look at him in a 2-0, 1.78 ERA, 25 innings pitched, 20 strikeouts, and compared to now his May, which is actually a little bit worse, but the team really hasn't given him that much run support when you look back into it. So 1-2, 3.20 ERA, 25 innings pitched, 22 strikeouts. So he does have more strikeouts, but there you can notice the similarities. I don't know if you have any last thing on the rotation itself.
No, just that they are starting to just come to fruition as advertised. Sandy, the velocity is there. He's got 98, 99 in his back pocket whenever he needs it. He actually made an appearance on, I think it was MLB Now on MLB Network. So it's nice to see him get some national coverage as well.
Okay, so let's stay on the pitching rotation because as you mentioned, Luzardo's out, and Eliezer's a little bit uncertain how that's going to work. So they brought in Castano. He made an appearance yesterday for us. At the moment of the recording yesterday, he made a ninth inning appearance. He allowed one run, which was the extra innings one, which it's extra innings. The man on second, horrible rule, but he had a pretty good ninth inning. He had 4 pitches in 1 inning, so that's just a way to look at it. They brought up Cody Potee, who had a very nice outing for the Marlins on Tuesday, I want to say. So you were there. So talk to us a little bit about Potee, and if they're gonna have to go with another pitcher, another TBD, if that should be Potee.
Yeah, I think definitely Potee earned himself another start. He has just been nothing short of phenomenal all year long out of the bullpen. Like I wrote, he had given up 1 earned run in I think it was 16 and a third innings pitched. He's been great. That changeup and he also is someone that Mel mentioned. That changeup has really blossomed even more than it was last year, and even in his great career in the minors, it's just really blossomed to a phenomenal pitch for him. He's definitely earned another start. I think I'm not sure if he's lined up for Sunday yet, officially, or Monday.
No, it's Sandy for Sunday.
He'll get another start, probably between Sandy and Pablo. But yeah, he looked really good. And after post game, I was speaking to him. He had a really bad blister on his thumb. Mattingly said it was a thumbnail thing, but it was more of a blister, which he had a problem with last year. I think it was in Boston where that happened in 2021. So hopefully that'll be fine. But if there's ever to be an injury with a pitcher, I'm glad it's of that nature.
Yeah. So just to look at the line for Potee, 4.2 innings pitched, 1 hit, no runs, no earned runs, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts, didn't allow a home run. He had a .43 ERA. So that's amazing for Potee. I definitely think he earns himself another spot. So with the rotation how it looks right now, he would be lined up for Monday since it went Sandy, Potee, and go so on and so forth. The last thing I want to touch up on is the bullpen. I mean, I think it's become pretty evident that Anthony Bender has just been struggling mightily as we saw just last night. He gives up a run, loads the bases, just isn't looking good. Your thoughts on Anthony Bender and what's the solution to this? And I think we'll both agree on the solution.
I think they've been using him in lower leverage spots. They use him in the 6th inning. I think on Tuesday, in the 5th inning, even on Tuesday. So they have been messing around with his the high leverage and low leverage spots for him. But at this point, you got to consider sending him down and have him work on some stuff. There is a myriad of players in AA and AAA that are putting up phenomenal numbers out of the bullpen for Pensacola and Jacksonville. And Bender's I don't think he's had a 1-2-3 inning all year. So he's maybe one, but he's struggled mightily. Since the sticky stuff last year, like we mentioned this a million times. Second half of last season was pretty, mid. And this season, it just hasn't been good at all. He hasn't been able to get it going. No control. He walked in a batter against Milwaukee, even though he sort of did clean up the mess that Tanner Scott left him. Here it was his own mess, and he hit a batter in, which is just as bad, if not worse. So it's been tough for Anthony Bender, but the stuff is still there, and I think he'll be fine.
This is where we'll go now into our interview with Miami Marlins play-by-play and pregame show guy Kyle Sielaff, also a Jeopardy contestant. So we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out and go fish. We have Kyle Sielaff joining us. Kyle, what's up, man?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. Now, I'll take it to Isaac for the first question.
Yeah, Kyle, just for anyone that's listening, just sort of tell us about yourself, how you came to this job.
This is my 10th season. So 10 years ago, I graduated in December of 2012 from the University of Miami. One of my good buddies, Chris Whittingham, who's with the Dan Le Batard show now.
Yeah,
he and I were very close. He was the station manager, the sports director for the student radio station at the time. And he texted me when I graduated. He was like, "Hey, the Marlins might be looking for somebody to do the pregame show." And I'm like, I guess I'll apply. I mean, I'm like a 22-year-old kid out of college. I can't imagine this is going to go extremely well. But one thing led to another, and I got the internship. And I've been fooling them for 10 years, guys.
Wow.
No, that's pretty cool. So let's move on to the baseball side. 2022 Miami Marlins. A lot more impressive than the past years for sure. So just want to get your overall thoughts, positive, negatives, any players that have stood out to you, and your overall thoughts on the team.
What is it? I mean, we're recording this on May 19th. Here's what I would say. They have not underperformed, and they have not exceeded my expectations. They're hovering around 500. There have been gettable games they needed to win. There have been games that they won that maybe afterwards you're like, nice. You put 5 or 10 of those, like, we got them in our back pockets every year. I think there's a long way to go. I think it's 17-20. You can't let it get away from you. I was actually very disappointed in the last game against the Washington Nationals. I said pregame, it's okay to be greedy. And sometimes you got sweep teams. Like, that's a bad team. Like, and we said it on the radio. You can't sugarcoat it and try to be nice. Like, they're a bad team. They're rebuilding. They're bad. You got to take advantage of them. Now, Miami's still 5-1 against them this season, right? You go 15-4 against those guys, it's a totally different tone. But anyway, I digress. 17-20, there's obviously a long way to go. They've got to play better. They got to start hitting a little more. I think they're okay where they're at. I mean, the Mets seem to be kicking everybody's rear end. And if they need to beat you 2-1 or 9-8, they seem to be able to do that every single day. Phillies are just, I don't know, man. They're just kind of doing their thing. Be interesting to see what the Marlins can do against the Braves this weekend. But I'm thinking, like, big picture from that 10,000-foot view at 17-20. At some point, you got to get it going. You can't sputter for too much longer. Let's get it going. And I was actually looking at this yesterday. If you go and look at the schedule with the expanded playoffs this year, if you look in the middle of July, they've got like 10 of 13 games against like the Pirates and Reds. I was thinking to myself, they got a tough schedule. But if you can hover around 500 until right before the All-Star break and coming out of it, and you go on a little run, you can find yourself 5-6 games over in the summer, right in the thick of things, which is exactly what I think they need to do. But look, pitching's been great. Jazz has been fantastic, right? And I would say this too. I could probably do this for an hour and you guys don't have to ask another question, but it just comes to me when I'm thinking about it. Everybody wants Jazz to play every day, okay? I think we all understand that. The reason Jazz is hitting 300, fellas, is because they're putting him in situations that are conducive to hitting 300. If they were running him out there every single day against righties and lefties, I promise you he's not hitting 300. And it's no knock on him, but analytically, they're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. They're putting people in a position to succeed, which is why I think you're seeing a lot of that success. Anyways, they got to get it going a little bit more. I see Garcia and Soler. His back was a little cranky lately. Let's see what they could do. They got to find a way to hold down the ninth inning. Got to close out the final 3 outs of games. So maybe the back end of the bullpen needs a little something there. We'll see. I think Anthony Baskett's slide in there as good as he's been this year. That guy has totally turned it around. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. There's a long way to go. I'm not displeased where they're at, and I'm not overly enthused about the situation they're in. 17-20, they're okay. Let's start winning some series.
Yeah, and I guess that's a good spot where we could go. I mean, the Marlins made a lot of movement during spring training. Like, we could take it back a little bit there. What were your thoughts on that initial roster? They brought in a Sean Armstrong when maybe they could have taken someone else in the minor leagues. What were your thoughts on that initial roster and the roster movement so far this season, how they've gone about that?
I think it's kind of to be expected, kind of where it's at. I think when it's all said and done, you're going to look at the Tanner Scott and Cole Sulser moves and be very pleased by them. I know Scott has had some command issues. Cole Sulser has proven to be very, very serviceable late in games, which I think is extremely encouraging. Position player wise, what else was kind of out there for them to do? For me, I think they kind of built it exactly how they wanted to within reason. Yeah. I don't think you left spring training feeling like, holy cow, like how did they not fill that need? Right. I think needs were filled and the roster was better than it was to end last season, which I think ultimately is every GM's goal, like be better than you were at the end of last season. Now, we'll see, like you see like a guy like Quintana crushing it in AAA. Like, do you clear a 40-man spot for a guy like that? Maybe. I don't know. Will there eventually be a need? I don't think he comes up without a need. I think the same will be said for Lewin Diaz. Yeah. I'm going to be very curious to see what happens with him and Gerard Encarnacion, who just got that promotion. Yeah. Like, can those guys hit in the big leagues? Like, we don't know, but is that a question that's going to be answered this season? I mean, I don't know. So there's a couple of names that are kind of encouraging down there and interesting to look at, but where they're at right now with no glaring injuries, looking forward to getting Wendell back at some point. I think people don't really like to hear this either. You take more time than you need there.
Yeah.
That hamstring lingers. He comes back 5 days too early because they feel like they need him, and something goes. Now we really got a situation.
Right.
Take as much time as you need to get it healthy. But, yeah, I'm okay with the way everything shaped up. Yeah.
You mentioned Lorenzo Quintana. He's someone that reminds me of Yerman Mercedes. Remember him? He came up,
Sure.
I think it was last year, and just demolished Major League pitching. And he's someone that reminds me of a very short swing, not a very athletic guy, not going to be a good catcher, but he could help any sort of lineup, whether it's starting or off the bench. And sort of like you mentioned a couple of guys, Joao Encarnacion and Lewin Diaz. Of all the minor leaguers, all those prospects, Blade is starting to get going a little bit. Peyton Burdick has been okay all year. Who are some of your real favorite prospects that are down on the farm?
Well, I think everybody naturally wants to see J.J. Bleday come up and be productive in the big leagues. I think he needs to prove that he can consistently be productive in the minor leagues before you just rush somebody up for the sake of rushing him up because you feel like he's been down there long enough. We're going to give him a shot in the big leagues. That can really monkey with somebody. I don't know. Like the Gerard Encarnacion, we were talking about him on the radio. Like, yeah. I know, COVID really screwed everything up, but he was 3 falls ago. He had a really good AFL season or something, and he just didn't hear his name again. And now I feel like in the last month and a half, and really if you pay close attention, which I try to do as much as I can with kind of the minor league system, but to me in the last couple of weeks, his name keeps popping up. He's hitting doubles and homers and stuff. That's just an intriguing one because a guy like that to me is almost like a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
Nobody you ever truly counted on. But what if that guy comes up and he's a productive major leaguer by necessity? Or the one thing you hope for if you're a GM is that these guys, if we're talking just position players, these guys hit their way to the big leagues. All right? You hit your way to the big leagues, then we're cooking. When guys start coming up out of necessity, you don't exactly know what you're going to get. So I don't know if there's. I would love to see Bleday come up. I always thought he was like that great Michael Conforto comp. Just a solid big leaguer. And hopefully he will be. He's got a hit. I mean, obviously he has been going through it. Now he's picked it up a little bit lately, but he's really had a tough time in the minor leagues, if we're being honest. And the other one to me is Lewin Diaz. I mean, I think the guy's a big leaguer, but can he hit? Now, at some point you have to find that out. I think he's already proved that his glove is good enough. Can he hit? The hard part there is the Marlins are not necessarily in a position in win now mode trying to win every night. You can't afford to bring somebody up to see what you have.
Right.
You have to have conviction when you bring him up. If he comes up this season, that he's going to be a productive piece of the major league team. Because if you're trying to win and you're hovering around 500 and you have aspirations of being good and potentially playing in the postseason, you can't exactly see what you have in guys. You have to have a strong conviction that, this kid's either coming up because he's hitting his way up here, or he's coming up and you know what I'm saying? That's an interesting one. He's already got the glove. He already showed that. So I don't know. It's kind of a tough question. I just think of those 3 guys off the top of my head, but who knows?
Yeah. I forgot to change my username. I should probably clarify for anybody that's confused. Hi, I'm Eli. I run this stuff.
No, that's perfect, Eric.
Before this got away from the prospect talk, I did want to bring to people's attention that during the lockout, when talking to major league players wasn't exactly an option for you guys, you got creative, rolled out a lot of these prospect spotlight videos, players that are younger and farther away from the big leagues. But I think what we were curious about is sitting down with those guys. There's a lot of content that was in the videos. I'm sure some that was left on the cutting room floor. What you learned about some of those young waves of players. It included Joe Mack. It included Yedi Cape, Victor Mesa Jr., Griffin Conine.
Lewis too, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, when you recorded those videos over the offseason, because it was really great stuff. And for people that hadn't seen it, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to mention those again. It was a great series.
I'm sure they're still posted on the YouTube page, I think.
Yeah.
When did we do those? Okay, I know when we did them. After the season ended and they had the prospect camp at Lone Depot Park. I knocked out 6 or 7 of those over the course of 2 days. I love just chatting with those guys. Once the season kind of wraps up and you get an opportunity to chat with some of the prospects, I just enjoy that because you kind of get to know how they tick a little bit. what they're all about. Like you get a really unique personality in a guy like Victor Mesa Jr., and then a more reserved guy like Bennett Hostetler, who at the time was converting to being a catcher. Some of those guys are so young. My goodness, when are you going to see them, right? Like 2 or 3 years. Oh, Khalil Watson, there you go. Like, I mean, you think of a guy like Khalil. I don't know. It's funny because like those 6 or 7 guys I talked to, you could put them all into that. You could group them into that bunch where it's like maybe 4 years, right? Maybe 3 years. That it was a group of guys where you could see really coming up together if they all meet a certain the organization's expectation. If they're not good in the minor leagues, it is what it is. But if those guys perform to the standard that the organization believes they can, probably some of these guys, you see them in 3 or 4 years, maybe all together. I know it always seems like a really long ways away, and then time absolutely flies, and you're like, holy cow, Khalil Watson or Joe Max already in the big leagues. They're making their debut. But that was fun. Yeah, we did that over the course of a couple of days at the ballpark.
Yeah. You mentioned some of those guys. You mentioned Jabbar Encarnacion and Lewin Diaz specifically. How great it would be to just see what they can do in the big leagues. The Marlins are really congested at that first base DH spot. With Cooper and Agin, both of them performing really well.
Mm-hmm.
You have Soler DHing sometimes. You have a lot of moving pieces. If let's say you were in Kim Ng's shoes, how would you sort of not fix it because it's not broken, obviously, but just sort of trying to open up a spot for a guy like Jabbar, who is, someone could say, major league ready. Lewin Diaz, obviously, ready to test major league waters. How would you sort of accomplish that goal of getting them at bats?
Well, I would take that a couple of different ways, Isaac. And I think people get very they get tunnel vision on like how you getting your prospects up here.
Right. If
your prospects are really good and you have a need in the big leagues and there's a logjam position, trade them. Trade for another major league talent. Fill needs on your roster through trading guys. And I'm not suggesting that Lewin Diaz needs to be traded or Jabbar Encarnacion needs to be traded. But what I am saying is if come July, the Marlins are still in it, maybe hovering around 500. And Aguilar, who is in a contract year, so they might not have him next year. But look, here's the deal. If you're trying to win and there's a team that is totally out of it and they stink and they've got some big leaguers and you have a need, trade some of these guys. Yeah. Trade them. I know it works people up, but not every single minor league top 30 guy you have is going to be on your big league roster at some point. But you can utilize assets. They're assets. They really are. They're assets to you and your organization, whether you want them in the big leagues or not. And again, I'm not suggesting that they have to be traded. But to me, just the way I see it, and you kind of see the way other teams operate, if you have a position that you feel like is pretty loaded and you feel very confident about what you have there and how you're going to entertain that moving forward, and there's a young kid who's knocking on the door, but the team might like him, and that particular team could fill the need that you have on your big league roster at the time, let's go. It's time to win, boys. Let's win.
Yeah, and you mentioned that because in the offseason, they sort of did that. They did deal from excess. They dealt some outfielders. They dealt some pitchers for their catcher, for their outfielders. They did deal from a position of strength.
Wendell, Stallings.
All outfielders, and Kyle Nicholas was traded. Zach Thompson was traded. So, they felt comfort to trade, out the positions of strength were, outfield and starting pitching.
Yeah.
And let's say they are, like you said, relevant in July. They can't stop now. Absolutely trade from the first base depth because you think that's what's next.
Sure. Who knows? A lot of people thought maybe there could be a big splash if they were to trade a Max Meyer or something, but you can probably hold on to guys like that unless you get something that you can't refuse.
Yeah.
But I think every general manager within reason is open-minded about any prospect that they have. If somebody's willing to overpay and you can confidently part with minor league top talent and you're bringing back major league baseball players in return, it's literally your only goal. Yep. You have to win in the major leagues. Great organizations develop from within. Great organizations find a way to trade from within and continue to build that prospect farm while improving the big league team. It's hard as heck. We all get that. Yeah. But the Marlins are in a position where you see where they are now. They're winning games. They're not uncompetitive. They have what it takes to win games. And I truly believe this organization, within reason, is going to do whatever they possibly can to get this team in a position where if we do this again on September 1st, Marlins have a chance. Maybe they're 3 out. Maybe they're 2 out. Who knows where they are? But I think they're going to continue to try to improve this team.
Yeah, and I'm someone who goes by, you always need to have your best hitters on the field and your best pitching on the field. If your best hitting comes from the minor leagues and there's a player struggling on the major league roster, I think you have to make something happen on that end, especially because there's some guys in the minor leagues that are raking, as we mentioned, Gerard, Lewin. Charles LeBlanc is another one, but I think that position's a little bit log-jammed as well. But, let's move on a little bit to Braves versus Marlins. This is being recorded once again on May 19th, so the Marlins are playing the Braves tomorrow for us, which would be May 20th. So let's preview that series a little bit. Marlins against Braves. So we do something on Fish Stripes Live called the series prediction. So we want to get your prediction on how many games the Marlins will win and the series MVP. So this series MVP could be on the Marlins side, the Braves side. It could be a reliever, pitcher, or position player, whoever you want from either side.
And just to be clear, though, MVP is chosen from a stat win probability added. For example, last series, Eli somehow guessed that Eric Gonzalez would be the MVP of that series, just edging out Jazz Chisholm when probability added based on that. Kyle?
What? Okay.
That was a great face. Great face. Just, what?
All right, hold on. Let's backtrack. I think the Braves are an extremely good team. I think just like saying they're going to sweep them is a little ridiculous, but I think Miami, in terms of the way that this rotation lines up this weekend, Rogers and Morton, let's see, Hernandez and Kyle Wright and Anderson and Alcantara.
Yes.
Win 2 of 3. You got 2 of your horses on the mound. Win 2 games. Like, that's what people think I'm crazy, but I say it all the time. When you have this type of rotation, win the game. Take 2 of 3. I understand it's harder than that, but if you are this good, their starting staff is this good, they're going to throw up clunkers once in a while. The expectation going into every series, when you've got 2 or 3 of your best pitchers going, you have to win 2 of 3. When you play bad teams like the Nationals, you got to sweep them. You're not going to do it all year. But what did I come back to? Find a way to be 15-4, 14-5 against those guys at the end of the year. Now, 2 of 3. Now, what is the win probability thing? What am I guessing?
You're picking a series MVP. Any player, presumably on the Marlins, it could be on the Braves, but usually on the Marlins, that you think is going to have a good series and just most importantly, like, come through when it matters most. That's what decides the factor in terms of who actually gets win probability added value.
Jesus Sanchez.
Oh, okay.
All right.
All right. So
are there any guys up for the Braves this weekend? I'm sorry, you mentioned it was Ian Anderson, Kyle Wright. Oh, Kyle Wright's gonna be tough, man. He is very good.
He's been really good.
Charlie Morris, no lefties. So yeah, good guess. I'll go with you on that one.
All right. So since Isaac and I won't be on the stream, let's go to Isaac for your series prediction and MVP.
Yes, Kyle is gonna be fortunate enough to have me annoying him tomorrow. I'll be at the ballpark covering the first game of the series. I'm gonna go with him. I'm always a little bit optimistic. Obviously, my realistic brain is saying the Marlins are gonna lose 2 out of 3, maybe even get swept. But with Sandy pitching on a Sunday at home, that's his bread and butter. Charlie Morton, Jazz has gotten him a few times, and so I'm gonna go Marlins win 2 out of 3. I think they win. They lose the middle game, and they win 2 out of 3. And I'm gonna go with. I know it's a popular vote, but Jazz Chisholm Jr. He's gone Charlie. And there's 3 righties on the mound, Kyle Wright, Ian Anderson. Both of those guys Miami has faced in the postseason. So I'm going to go with 2 out of 3 for Miami. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is my most valuable player.
Yeah, this is
MVP, best player in the league.
This is definitely a must-win series for the Marlins. They got the edge over the Braves last time in the series. So they took 2 out of 3 against them. Played extremely well in Truist Park. It's what it's called now, I hope. And so I think Miami does take 2 out of 3. They win the Trevor start. They win the Sandy start. I just don't see them winning that Eliezer start. In series MVP, I'm going to go Jorge Soler. It's Cuban Heritage Night on Saturday. I think he'll get the juices flowing for him a little bit more. Hopefully he's healthy enough to play. He's been dealing with some back issues, I think, since for a couple days now it's been. So let's move on to the next topic. Isaac, take it away.
Well, yeah, no, Kyle, obviously you've been doing this for quite a while, and just obviously craziest, wackiest moment so far that, ask the manager of broadcasting for the Miami Marlins, what's like the funniest thing, whether it happened in the booth or whether it happened on the field, or just favorite moment, baseball moment that happened on the field. Just what are some moments that stood out to you so far in your in your career?
Funny or craziest or the weirdest?
Memorable, perhaps.
Well, memorable. The first thing that comes to mind would be D. Gordon's home run after Jose died. That's a layup.
Yeah.
That's an uncontested layup, fellas. Crazy or wacky? I don't know, man. What is crazy or what? The Philly Fanatic came in and silly strung me all over the place in Philadelphia on my birthday like 4 years ago. That Glenn and John Eric set up. Like that, but that was kind of wild. That big fluffy green thing coming in and just spraying me with an entire can of silly string was kind of weird.
Was it true that you took on the Freeze in Atlanta?
I want to know this.
What should I say? Okay, that
wasn't you, was it?
The truth, fellas, is that wasn't me.
I knew it wasn't you.
But we're trying to line it up for September.
Let's do it. Okay. You have to.
We need this.
You truly believe you can beat the Freeze with that head start? Would you beat the Freeze?
I think so. If I get if he gives me the proper headway, yes, I will beat him.
Okay. Good. Kevin, are we going to go through Q&A or are we going to go straight to
Q&A time, and then we'll go to the final question.
Apparently, we have a couple of Twitter users that have a couple questions for you.
Funny enough, this isn't on the screenshot, but Glenn Geffner right now just replied to the tweet saying, "I have a few questions." He said, "I have a few questions." ...
Oh,
Oh man.
So I guess
because
so Noah's question was already answered. So I'll go to Romeo here, and then we'll go to Navier. What to do with Sixto Sanchez? He's been recovering for a while now. I think he's throwing 90 feet at the moment. He was with the Marlins in 2020 through a playoff game. Just want to remind people that he threw a playoff game 2 to win it and send the Marlins to the NLDS against the Braves. And he was pretty solid in that 2020 season. So we'll go to Kyle and then Isaac.
Sixto?
Yes.
To me, he's a non-factor until he proves he's healthy.
Okay.
And that, number one, he has to get healthy, get on a mound, and then go get innings in either AA or AAA. I guess conceivably you could see him this summer, maybe sometime after the All-Star break. But, I mean, he has to go down to the minor leagues and prove that he can get guys out.
Right.
Like Sixto Sanchez doesn't get a meal ticket back to the big leagues because he was a highly touted prospect.
Yep.
And he's got a cool name, and he pitched a playoff game for the Marlins 2 years ago. Again, it's just not the situation they're in.
Absolutely.
He has to be competitive and get guys out because nobody wants to see him, and he doesn't need to be up here if he's going to be wild, erratic, all over the place and can't get anybody out. I mean, to me, that's just the truth. Sixto gets healthy. He hasn't been healthy for 2 years. If he proves he's healthy and he's going down there and shoving in AA or AAA, come on up, brother. Here's your flight number back to Miami, and you're coming back to the big leagues. But the Marlins right now are not in a position to be like, we pitched here. Come on. No. They're trying to win. So with Sixto, I think it would be awesome to see him back in the big leagues. He's got a long way to go, and he's got a lot to prove to people before he convinces them he deserves to be back here.
Yeah, I love your terminology for that. A non-factor is the perfect way to describe it. We don't even know how much he's into it personally. He hasn't been, like you said, he hasn't been healthy in 2 years. He has a long way to go. People ask me on the streets, "Oh, what about Sixto? He's gonna be a top prospect. He's in your rotation, right?" I'm like, I wouldn't even bet on him till 2023, and that's even optimistic for me. He's got a long way to go. I feel like he's been at this, feet increments of throwing for feels like forever. So I'm with you, man. Unfortunately, especially with all the pitchers that are major league ready, like Edward and Max Meyer, just breaking on the door. He's really fallen on the depth chart for this Miami starting rotation. So
now here's what I do know. I have been told and I have seen firsthand his work ethic has increased substantially. He wants to be back in the big leagues. He wants to be a part of the Miami Marlins rotation, the bullpen, closing. I don't know. Whatever role that they seem fit for a guy that's had shoulder issues, the work ethic is there. But he's got to recover from multiple injuries here.
Right.
If it hasn't been one thing, it's been another the last 2 years. And again, he's in a throwing progression. He's not on a mound. Then you got to go get your innings. You got to make rehab starts. There's a lot. And he was optioned, remember. So it's not like he's going to be making rehab starts with the anticipation of when his rehab stint is over, he's going to be activated and reinstated right to the big leagues. Like, no, like he's got to prove. And like you said, you mentioned some of these guys like Meyer or Cabrera or whoever, this guy's knocking on the door. Sixto's not getting a free pass to the big leagues because he's been here before, which is great. There should be that competitiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what makes a good team. And remember, the last taste in his mouth of Major League Baseball was not a good one. The Braves game, the Braves absolutely demolished him. He was, taken out after I think it was 3 innings maybe. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, Kyle.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that Sixto, about the work ethic. That's the first thing I was gonna go at him for. That he wasn't showing too much work ethic. Just seemed like he was on Instagram having a good time, but
Yeah. You see that with guys, but from what I understand, and from when I saw him this spring, he's working hard to get back. He genuinely wants to be back in the big leagues. Now, will he ever make it back? Who knows, fellas? Who knows? There's a long way to go.
Yeah, and I was there. I saw him for a split second when I up in Jupiter when I went that time I covered, but Sixto fully healthy Sixto that's done rehab starts could be a scary sight. And you mentioned Eater's another one. Meyer, Yuri, who's now in Double-A at 19 years old, which is just crazy. Edward Cabrera, there's all these guys putting pressure on Sixto pretty much when he's fully healthy. I wouldn't mind seeing Sixto in the bullpen. I really wouldn't in a late inning situation. Having him just take out the final 9 guys, not closer situation. That guy could throw the ball hard. Sixto's a really good pitcher at full strength. So let's move on to the next.
He'd have to prove he could get the final 3 outs of a game. But if they think the best opportunity for him to stay healthy and be productive in the big leagues is to bring him up and turn him loose and get 3 outs every couple of nights in the 6th or 7th inning, he ain't going to be the closer. But if he can throw 95 to 100 with a wipeout breaking ball and a changeup or whatever, and you can turn him loose for 15 or 20 pitches every couple of days, well, maybe you got something there. But yeah, whatever. We'll see.
Alrighty, next question. If we could put that back up. It's from Navi from Marlins Discord. When should Donnie, the FO, give up
the front office?
Miggy Rowe? The front office, yeah. Give up on Miggy Rowe. So I'll go to Kyle, then Isaac, and I'll give my spiel.
I know he's not off to a great start, but look what he's done the last couple of days.
Yeah.
Guys have a track record for a reason. Miggy's not getting any younger, but he's still a professional who can hit the ball the other way and field the ball. Has he lost a quarter of a step everywhere at short, maybe running? I don't know, maybe. But he can still hit the ball the other way. What's the other option? Jazz ain't going to shortstop. Do people want to say Anderson at third and Wendell at short?
Yes. That would be my perfect world would be a platoon at short with Wendell and Miggy Rowe. Miggy Rowe crushes lefties. Obviously this year a little bit of a different story, but historically it's crushed lefties. Wendell crushes righties. You'd be losing some defense at short with Wendell, but you know what? They're sacrificing defense all over the place. Why not in the infield as well? Brian Anderson is proving he needs to play every single day. To me, that's a perfect situation.
Now, okay. Do I agree that and who am I kidding? They're already platooning within reason. Miggy's not necessarily playing every day. He is now because of Wendell's hurt. But they have utilized every single one of these guys in what they believe is the most advantageous situation to let them be productive. They've done that all season long, and everybody understands that. Now, I think the question's ridiculous. Like, when are you going to give up on them? No, it's like a 2-year, $10 million deal or whatever. Like, I mean, I guess you can cut bait with a guy that has a proven track record, but that's a very risky proposition. I'm not doing anything with Miggy. I'm going to put him in the best possible position to succeed. You're not always healthy. Miggy's probably going to go out there 120 games, 130 times this year. If he can stay healthy, water finds its level. Miggy will be just fine. Look, dude, and he played that great play against the Nationals last night, sliding to his right. Like, people are like, well, he can't play defense. What do you mean he can't play defense? Watch him. Like, he made a great play, sliding, popped up, and in one fluid motion through to first. Like, Miguel Rojas is okay. Just let him be. He will be just fine.
I think he's extremely relevant for this team. No doubt. That was a hell of a play, and that's a perfect – I think he's the perfect – like I said, off the bench bat, make some starts, a lot of starts, and maybe even a defensive replacement. I think there's definitely a role for him on this team.
Sure.
I think there's the point that Navi was making is that, hey, maybe his days of starting every day, no matter who's pitching, might be numbered, but he is, so
And
valuable.
they were.
Exactly.
When everybody was healthy, those guys were platooning.
Exactly. And Brian Anderson showing that he's really good again makes it even, it's a great problem to have. This is a problem that Miami really hasn't had before, where they have, 3 guys for 2 positions on the left side of the infield. They have 3 guys for the right side of the infield, and they're all good. And this is really a great sight to see, because before you'd have Devin Marrero and Isan Diaz playing, and here you are with Wendell or coming off the bench sometimes. So it's definitely a great situation for this team, and it's fantastic.
And it's funny you mentioned, a guy like Marrero and Isan, because, one of the biggest improvements the Marlins made this offseason was upgrading that bench. Now you have a bench of Payne Henry, De La Cruz, you have Joey Wendell / Miguel Rojas. That's a pretty good bench when you look at it. So, Miggy Rowe has never doubted me when it comes to defense. I love Miggy Rowe on the defensive end. He's incredible. He's a Gold Glove candidate, not candidate, but he's a Gold Glove caliber defensive player at short. Right. And the bat this season has been very slow. I will say it's been very slow. He hasn't gotten it going as quickly as everyone, saw him either in 2020 or 2021, but he's going to get it going. I think he'll get it going very soon. He just has to get adjusted, very short spring training. A lot of these guys have gotten off to slow starts because of that short spring training, which did not benefit many. So we have, I think, one final question. And funny enough, it's from Glenn, there it is. Glenn Geffner asked, what's it like being Ted Lasso's assistant coach?
It's good. Did you guys watch Ted Lasso?
No, I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, so you guys are like, what is this weirdo asking? Nobody has.
No, I know of it. I didn't watch.
Yeah,
I know of it.
Coach Beard. I guess I look like him. I think that's flattering. I don't know. He's an all right looking dude, like a 5 out of 10. So I'm probably like, whatever. I'm just a normal looking human being. Great. It's great to be his assistant coach. Yeah.
Yeah, I think our own Daniel Rodriguez actually did Halloween as Ted Lasso one year, so I know of the story.
Manny dressed up as Ted Lasso this Halloween, I'm pretty sure. But
by the way, Miggy Rowe has a hit in 8 of his last 10 games. 2 of them being multiple hit games. 2 nights ago, he went 3 for 4. If this thing would load, I would tell you what he's hitting in his last 10 games, because he's like he's gone in his last 10. Listen, fellas. In his last 10 games, he's hitting .297 with an on-base percentage of .333. His average has gone from 177 to .214. So everybody, park it. Just cool it.
Yep, I was just getting the numbers for you. He has been hot as of late, and I was at the game on Tuesday night where he homered, and he had a 3-hit game, a double, and he had another RBI double the game previous, I think, one down the line. So he's been heating up. It's been good to see. And like I said, he's definitely got a role, but I guess how much will be determined based on Wendell and Anderson's continued health and performance.
Exactly. And Wendell has performed. That's the thing. Wendell's performed big time. He was one of the hottest hitters, one of the best hitters on the Marlins before his injury. I think he had one of the highest batting averages as well. So that's definitely one. Isaac, I think you have one last question.
Yeah, last question for you, Cal. I know we got a bunch of South Florida sports to get to. Miami Heat.
1-1. Panthers, Lightning, 1-1. Second period's wrapping up. Go ahead.
Alrighty, we're gonna get this one really quick. Last question. You're obviously, the epitome of what someone who would study journalism, broadcasting would do. Any advice? Hey, you are to me anyway. Any advice to someone who may be watching and want to get into this sort of career path?
Yes, the biggest piece of advice I can ever give somebody is you have to create a demo reel. You can have a 4.0 GPA in college. You can be the best stinking student on campus. If you walk out of those doors without a demo reel to show anybody, you're not going to get a job. I don't care.
Send me your demo reel. Share it with us.
Sure, I'm happy to. Let me see what I can find. I usually just keep. I just have samples of my work. I don't physically, I guess, because kind of like where I'm at now, have like a full blown demo reel. I just keep like samples of like my college baseball work, big leagues, like basketball and stuff I do for ACC Network Extra. But I'm telling you, dude, these phones, they keep really good audio quality. Broadcast the game. You can sit at Lone Depot Park and broadcast the game.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, whether it's college campus, I'm telling you, you have to come out of school with a demo reel. Because you know what? If I'm hiring like interns that I've had in the past, you can't be a total dummy. But I don't care about your GPA.
Right.
Like what? I don't care if you flunked History 101. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, if you're passionate about broadcasting and doing baseball or whatever sport, but I can't hear anything you do, what do you want me to do? Like, give you a chance? Like, no. I'm going to give a chance to somebody that actually has a reel.
Yeah, facts. I used to do the same thing, actually. I used to put the game on mute, and I used to have a voice memo recorded.
There you go.
Play
If you want to practice, hey, Glenn used to say that, it tells me this all the time, like, you know, when he was younger, right? Like when he first started, a lot of people, you mute the TV, you call the game, you have packs of cards. I mean, Glenn used to say you like line out the cards in the baseball packs or whatever and call like games that way. Like use your imagination, especially on radio. That's why I love radio. You can use your imagination, you know? TV's a little different, but yeah, like number one, practice. And number two, if you're serious about it, you have to develop some type of reel that people can listen to you and be like, yeah, they sound good, or they need more practice or whatever.
Yep. And that's, I think, the perfect way to close it out. From Kyle and Isaac, we'll see you guys all in the next one. Peace out and go Marlins.